If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Lone Lightworker podcast. I'm your host, Jen Rodriguez. The Lone Lightworker is so grateful for all of the support, love, and the feedback. We take it seriously and we value your thoughts, so keep them coming. We had our first live online Loving Your Light event recently, and it was definitely a fun experience. Be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms, and be on the lookout for our next event. We're so excited to let everyone know that the Lone Lightworker is now on YouTube. So for those who prefer YouTube and don't really do the podcast thing, check us out on YouTube and be sure to subscribe. We're growing and we have each of you to thank for that. Keep spreading the word and the love. There isn't a single one of us that's the same as another. We act in different ways and we think in different ways too. We all have very different views on so many topics such as politics, religion, right down to life and how we choose to live each day. Sometimes our differences bring us together, but all too often those differences actually create a divide, as unintentional as it may be. We were raised with a certain set of parents or family members who had certain values and beliefs in which they raised us with. Then as we got older and started making friends, or as we were introduced to people outside of our immediate family, we were likely exposed to what was sometimes an entirely different and new set of values or beliefs. And they may have challenged what we had been taught or what we were raised to believe. Do you remember a time or situation in which you realized that you and a friend or family member actually had very different views? So many of us probably weren't sure how to react or respond in those instances. And what do you know? It very likely ended up in a disagreement or conflict of some sort. We were certain that our way of thinking was the right way, which could only then mean that they were wrong. Too many times as we're confronted with different beliefs, we find ourselves digging in our heels, intent on turning around their way of thinking or trying to convince them to see the error in their ways. We need to stop. So many of us think our way is the only way or the best way, and that's just not the case. So often, the minute someone disagrees with us or makes it clear that they don't agree with us, we get defensive and we sometimes get ugly and we sometimes get mean. Why are we so set and so certain that our way is the right way? Why are we so certain that we know what's right and what's best? Why are we so certain that they're wrong? And why in the hell do we get so nasty and mean the minute they don't agree with us? The Society for Personality and Social Psychology published an article, Character and Context, the Science of Who We Are and How We Relate. And they indicated two possible reasons for getting ugly with others the minute they disagree with us as being related to either attitude clarity and or attitude correctness. They describe attitude clarity as when you've shared and reshared your views and opinions over and over again, ultimately causing us to be really sure of those opinions. We've been saying it for so long or so many times that it results in an increase in a belief that it must be true. It's similar to what occurs with those who have issues with lying. They tell the lie so many times that sometimes they actually begin believing their lies firsthand. With attitude correctness, we tend to gravitate to others who hold similar views, and when that group then confirms our beliefs for us, it makes us feel that much more like we're right. After all, this group of similarly minded people can attest to it, right? We need to understand that the other side also likely has a group that shares in their same views, so they're likely feeling the very same. When the two come together, what are the chances they'll ever agree if they're both so set in their ways and so adamant about their respective views? The Society for Personality and Social Psychology indicated that both attitude clarity and attitude correctness make people more certain of their attitudes. According to the society, they found that the more correct and or validated that individuals felt in their beliefs, the more likely they were to get angry and confrontational. When we feel justified or validated in our beliefs and feelings, then we're more likely to get mad and we're more likely to engage in conflict. Many of us do a fairly decent job of respecting others' views for the most part. We try to remain open to the fact that everyone has their opinions, everyone has their beliefs, just as we do. But no matter how well we think we're doing with respecting differences, there's typically a point where it can and will become uncomfortable for us if we give them the impression that we're buying into their opinions, which is what we feel is happening if we don't make it clear to them that we disagree. Maybe we think that if and when we choose not to express our disagreement with them, then they'll assume that we do agree, and we definitely don't want that. Maybe it's such a sensitive topic, one that is extremely important to us, that we cannot and will not take lightly. We feel the need and maybe even a responsibility to let them know that they're wrong. According to an article by Psychology Today titled "Why We Hate People Who Disagree," it's often attributed to the fact that our beliefs and our values are deep within, and nobody knows how we think or how we feel unless we express those ideas and thoughts. Even then, as much as we try to express what we're feeling and thinking, they will only know what we're telling them. There isn't a way for them to know how it actually feels for us. Why? Because they're not us. They haven't been raised the ways in which we have. They may have different values, they've had different experiences, different points of reference. They're doing their best to understand and empathize, perhaps, but they're not us, and they're not experiencing things exactly the same way as we're experiencing it. We can never fully know or understand their unique experience. It's unique to them, just as ours is unique to us. In this article, they also point out when people disagree with us, their disagreement not only influences the validity of our beliefs, but it calls into question our personal identities, the kind of people we want to believe that we are. When people disagree with us, we feel like they're challenging or questioning our being. We think they're questioning our values, our morals, our beliefs, all of who we believe and think ourselves to be. We think that by saying they disagree with us, they're also then saying that what we believe is wrong or bad, and we often end up getting defensive. Think about how much hate and violence we've seen over the past few months. Whether it's COVID related and about wearing masks, or whether it's about the social injustices that so many are speaking up about right now. People are getting angry and people are engaging in conflict. Why? Because they believe something so strongly that the minute they're up against someone who has opposite beliefs, the passion and sometimes anger comes through for all to see. I can't tell you how many posts I've seen on social media where someone makes a statement or posts a meme about having to wear masks, and before you know it, there's a full-on battle being had. Some people don't see the big deal with being asked to wear a mask, and they want to do their part to help keep everyone safe, whereas others are certain that this is a situation where our rights are being violated, certain that it starts with masks and ends up in forced vaccinations and tracking devices. They're not going to stand by while their rights are being violated, and they take every opportunity to voice their opinions and thoughts on the subject. Look at our current political climate. It's an election year, and we're back to candidates bashing their adversaries, whether on TV, every other commercial break, or whether it's the tweets flying back and forth. And here's a question to ponder. Would any of these individuals have the same amount of courage? Would they be so mean if they were face to face with the person rather than sitting behind their computer monitor or smartphone? Of course, I'm sure there are many who would present the same way regardless, but there are plenty of people who would otherwise never get so ballsy in person, yet here they are, appearing to have some serious cojones, hiding behind their keyboard. So-called social media trolls that so many of us have experienced at one point or another. People go to attacking others, pointing out how horrible this person is for this or that. It's a mess, and it's ugly, and it spews anything but tolerance, anything but acceptance, and definitely anything but respect. I don't think anyone would argue that there are some serious things going on right now, and I'm not saying we should agree or allow these things to continue. What I'm saying is we can all agree to disagree, and we can absolutely disagree from a place of love, from a place of wanting goodwill for all, and from a place of respect. So how do we stop the bashing or the criticism the minute someone doesn't agree with our views? How do we increase and develop our tolerance and acceptance of others and of differing beliefs? Chopra.com published an article, 8 Tips to Build Tolerance in Your Life. Starting us out on the list is number 1, own your feelings. They discuss and recommend recognizing and owning what you're feeling, understanding that while you have the right to your own feelings and opinions, so too does the other person. Recognize that you're feeling bothered or uncomfortable, and remind yourself that these are your feelings, and then remind yourself that they're also entitled to theirs. Would you want someone trying to change the way you feel or telling you to feel a different way? I doubt it. So we should keep that in mind if and when we want to tell someone else how they should be feeling. Number 2, look within. They encourage you to spend some time soul searching and reflecting on what might be going on within you. Are you frustrated because you're lacking or missing something that you need? Why are you so frustrated with what they're saying? Take some time to search within yourself, being completely open and honest, and try to figure out why it might be bothering you to the extent that it is. Number 3, check your ego. As you're looking within, look at whether or not your ego is at work in this scenario or situation. Look, and again, be honest with yourself. Recognize if and when your ego is playing a part in how you're feeling or responding. So often, our ego is at work, especially when we're in disagreement with someone else. For me, I can think of a handful of times where I didn't agree overall with someone, yet they may have had some valid points or arguments, but I wasn't willing to admit that to them at the time. Why? Because of my ego. Number 4, meditate. Meditation can help in so many ways. For me, meditation helps to calm my thoughts, and it helps me to relax and recover from the stress. Whether it's a stressful situation or stressful emotions, it can help us to recenter ourselves and bring us back to a place of being in the here and now. Number 5, remember, change is imminent. The only thing that never changes is change itself. Ask yourself if you're digging in your heels rather than accepting that change. Ask yourself if you're being as flexible and as adaptable as you need and want to be. Change is going to happen, and if we can't find a way to accept and flow with it, it can come through in other ways such as frustration or conflict. If and when you realize and admit that you struggle with adapting to change, consider finding some resources and working on that. Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson is a short read that touches on adapting to our ever-changing world and lives. Consider checking it out. Number 6, use your power. They're recommending that we look at our reactions to difficult or challenging situations and that we make a point to recognize how we're sometimes attached to certain feelings. They recommend using our power to control and shift how we're viewing these feelings or situations. Shift your perspective and perception and turn around your tendency to be reactive or the tendency many of us have with getting frustrated or angry. We all have the power within to adjust and shift how we respond to external factors. It just takes practice. You can also check out our podcast episode, It's a Choice, where we explored shifting our perspectives, our outlooks, and how we choose to view and respond to challenging situations. Definitely give it a listen if you haven't already. Number 7, keep perspective. They remind us to remember and accept that we won't be loved or liked by everyone all the time. Reflect and accept that we're not perfect and sometimes we annoy or frustrate others. Again, look within and ask yourself if you've done something to upset or annoy someone else. Explore what and where you might be able to take some responsibility, and then consider shifting your behaviors and your words. Number 8, practice patience. Be patient with yourself and others, especially in those challenging situations or interactions. Be patient with yourself if and when you could have said something different or if you could have handled something a little bit better. And be patient with others. After all, we're all human and no one is perfect, right? Be sure to check out the full article at Chopra.com. Life can be so tough and so tense at times, especially right now with so many big things occurring around us and within us. It's only natural that we're not always going to agree with each other, and that's okay. That can actually be a great thing. But we can and should get to a place of seeking to understand where another person is coming from. And at an absolute minimum, we can and should be kind and compassionate with others. Recognize and embrace that we're all different and we're designed that way for a reason. We need differences to move us forward. We can't all be good at everything, and we each need to play to our individual strengths and work together to make this the best world that it can be for all. Think about what you're teaching others by how you respond. Are you showing them kindness, compassion, and an open mind and heart? Or are you too busy trying to convince them that they're wrong and the many ways in which they're not how or who they should be, according to you? Just as we want to be accepted for who and how we are, our neighbor, our family member, and that stranger you encounter most likely want, and they absolutely deserve the very same. We won't always agree on things, and that disagreement is often what brings about change. Will you commit to being a part of the positive change to come about? Or will you sit back, digging in your heels, getting mean and mad with those who don't see things the way that you do? I hope you choose compassion. I hope you choose tolerance, acceptance, patience, and choose forward motion. But more than anything, I hope you choose kindness, and I hope you choose respect. Our world needs that right now more than ever. With that, I thank you for being here today. I look forward to meeting you here next week for an all-new episode. Please be sure to subscribe, connect with the Lone Lightworker community, and please be sure to spread the word about the Lone Lightworker. Until then, keep shining your light and keep spreading